Arden Hanley here, trainer and international mentor for Asset Academy, and I'm here with Paul Shamplina, founder of Landlord Action and brand ambassador for Hamilton Fraser. Just wanted to take a few minutes, Paul, to pick your brains about where we're up to with Section 21, because we know there was a lot of talk last year about banning it. We had the consultation which closed off in October last year, and things have gone a bit quiet at this stage. So what's happening now?
I'm going to tell you the news on the street, Arden.
Okay.
So there was over 20,000 consultation submissions. It's one of the biggest things to affect the private rental sector. I think even bigger than Section 24, believe it or not, because I'm worried about I don't want this to be a mass exodus, but basically where it's at the moment, the government are banning Section 21. It's happening, okay? Which means that if you want to get a tenant out in the future, when it comes in, which could be 2 to 3 years possibly, then you have to use Section 8. So if you want to sell your property, you want to move back in the property, it's a ground. There's 17 grounds under Section 8. It could grow to 24 grounds. We're looking at grounds for access. So I've been sitting on government consultation. I've been sitting on a group called the Fair Possessions Coalition. It sounds like the mafia, but it's not. And we've been advising the government. So my biggest worry with all of this, and we've worked out, so we own a website called landlordzone.co.uk, which is a resource site. We did a survey and 60% of landlords use Section 21 for rent arrears.
Yeah.
Because they just want the property back. They're not going to get a rent arrear. That's going to stop. They call it non-fault, but there's always a fault. But my worry, and I say this to government, and I've said this in blogs and in press releases, they want to bring a housing court in. Housing court, you need resource, you need more judges, you need more bailiffs,
Absolutely.
You need more run. If landlords don't see there's investment, because I think from what I worry is that the ban's going to come in and then they're going to deal with the court after. In Scotland, they banned the equivalent of AT6 form, but they invested in the tribunal system. But it still takes 10 months to evict a tenant there.
Yeah.
So if you don't have market confidence, I'm worried that possibly landlords might exit. So it's about engagement, and we need investment in the court system.
Well, and we've already seen some of that landlord exodus from changes to mortgage interest rate relief rules, the stamp duty, the tenant fee ban. This would just be another thing which ultimately probably creates a disadvantage for landlords, but also for tenants. And I know this is one of the things that you were talking about quite a lot, with some of the unintentional consequences of this government action in the lettings industry.
Most definitely. I mean, that's a really good point. So I talk about unintended consequences. So I had the government in our offices at Hamilton Fraser sitting with the landlord action lawyers. We've got 9 solicitors and paralegals running 600 cases. And I said, the unintended consequences are, a lot of tenants are rehoused by the council on Section 21. They're told to stay put. It's happened for many, many years because of the housing crisis. If a tenant is evicted under Section 8, it means that there's a money order on the Section 8 order because there's no Section 21. If they go to the council can say, well, you've made yourself homeless because there's rent arrears, and they won't rehouse them. So there's that issue, and they didn't get that, and they were really surprised when I told them, you're going to have tenants that are landlords that are referencing tenants more stringently. So how do those people, the more vulnerable tenants? You'll also see issues with regard to antisocial behaviour, because landlords use Section 21 for antisocial behaviour, and it's a big issue as well. So the government, it's happening. It was very political. Tenants shouldn't be fearful of eviction. I get that. But it was, a lot of it has come in cross-party, political, because obviously there is 8-9 million tenants, and the tenant vote is very important. And landlords want tenants to stay in properties longer. They want longer tenancy. So I just worry, I keep shouting about it. I've been in this game a long, long time, and I wrote a blog recently about court delays on the Landlord Zone website. We're not seeing the courts get any better now.
Yeah.
And this is before the ban. Yeah. So what's going to happen after? Watch this space.
Absolutely. So probably some of the things to look at the moment is there's a regime very similar to where England and Wales may be going, already in operation in Scotland.
Yes.
It might be worth, as a professional landlord, keeping an eye on what's going on there, and especially how it shakes out in the real world. But also, Paul raised a really interesting point there as well. One of the natural things that you probably have to do to protect yourself is make sure you're really hot on the referencing, because it's better to avoid a problem to begin with than to, be faced with an issue where you've got to get a tenant out anyway.
And get rental really insurance as well. I do recommend getting rental insurance when they pass the reference. If they pass the reference, you can buy a rental policy. We're bringing one out soon for Hamilton Fraser. I'm just overseeing that with my colleagues. So if the tenant doesn't pay the rent each month, you get your rent, you can pay your mortgage, and your legal fees are covered as well. You've got to protect yourself. It's really important.
Brilliant, Paul. Thank you very much for the
You're
time and
welcome.
giving us an update.